Hi, my name's Shane Delia, and this is Uncommon.
Uncommon is a production by Neuralle, a full-service digital agency. If you want to grow with a premium agency and have the ability to work with Jordan directly, then learn more at neuralle.com/media and request a callback. That's neuralle.com/media.
My name is Jordan Michaelides, and I'm your host on a show where we dig deep on unique individuals. If you like the show, subscribe. We would love that. It gives us a lot of support and helps us keep things going as well. You can always give us a nice little like, which is always useful. Show notes are down below, just in the comments section. You can also find a link there in the description. It's neuralle.com/podcast for all previous episodes. If you want to listen to the audio, if you don't want to be watching it on YouTube, you can find us on all your good podcast apps. That's Uncommon Show. You'll be able to find us everywhere. If you want to see behind the scenes with us, what we're doing each week, search Uncommon or at Uncommon_show on Instagram and you'll find us there. But what can I say? Thank you so much for checking us out, and let's get into it. My guest this week is Shane Delia, founder of Maha Restaurant, Maha East, Biggie Smalls Kebabs, Middle Ground, which just came out in December. He's a aficionado of Mercedes-Benz and a prominent son of the West as well. I feel like I've probably forgotten the restaurant in there. Maha Bar as well.
Hasn't opened yet. Opens next week.
Maha Bar, which is replacing Biggie Smalls. Look, I've got so many notes here on things to open with. We were chatting before about Sydenham. But there's two things I want to ask you about. Do you still note take in your moleskin diary?
Yeah, I do. It's in the car.
Okay.
Heaps. I mean, no one can decipher it. I mean, the scribble in there is terrible. It's kind of like half English, Maltese, and kind of looks like Egyptian. But
have you ever found someone sort of like peering through it, like sort of just?
No, but I've got them all, the old ones in the office, just in the cabinet, sort of, over the years. Because I go through probably one every 8 or 9 months.
Okay.
And yeah, they're all sitting there, and I should probably actually go through them and see all the things that I should have done and didn't get around to doing.
The other thing I was thinking about as well is watches. I hear you're a bit of a watch geek.
No, not really. I like watches. I don't have a ton. I've probably got 3 or 4. But I don't really know what's cool and what's not cool. I just know what I like. And I think that's with any collection. I think if you start worrying about what you should be collecting or should like, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah.
You should just be drawn to something.
What do you like?
In regards to watches?
Yeah.
I think you should have a variety. I think you should have stuff that, you can wear every day, stuff that when you're really trying to be a baller, stuff that's really just, I suppose, a bit understated, but still got a bit of finesse when you're wearing a nice suit, or you don't need to, make a statement. It's something that you can throw around every day as well. I think if you've got a little bit of everything, then you're okay, and then you can be obsessive and start going crazy. But I just turned 40 a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
About that.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. and I a little bird told me that a few of my friends have got together and all put in some money to buy me a nice watch. So I'm actually having the celebration for that tomorrow, and I'm supposed to act surprised, but I think I know what I'm getting.
Well, that's an interesting thing, because when you're, let's say, at an earlier stage of your career, I don't know, just coming from a WOG family as well, the value of a gift is what is prominent. But as you get older over time, and as you see more success in life, it's actually maybe a bit more nostalgia or heart that goes into a gift that you start looking for. Like, I noticed that with my dad.
Yeah.
He really doesn't care anymore for gifts that are opulent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the opulent stuff's nice because it shows that people are willing to put their hand in their pocket and, really dig deep for you. They must like you if they're willing to throw in 20 grand. You know what I mean? Between everyone, you know what I mean? You go, wow. But it's also sometimes easy to just, like, if you've got money, it's easy to put your hand in your pocket and go, here, no worries. There's no thought, there's no emotion. Whereas, like for my 40th, one of my uncles, he and I have always been really close, bought me a gift, which took a lot of time and a lot of love. And he really had to know me, and he had to go and find it, and it would have taken him forever. For him it was probably like spending 10 grand. It's all relevant. He'd still spend a little bit of money to get it. But when I got it, I just knew how much time he would have spent to get it, and I really loved it. I cherish it.
Can you say what the gift was?
Oh, it was just a model car. I've got a couple. I like cars as well. I've got a couple of cars, and I've got an old 72 HQ Monaro, which is all original, like original everything, motor and gearbox, and
Jesus. Beautiful
car. And he found me, like there's these really beautiful, like to scale models that they make, and he found me my car in my colours, and they're really hard to get. Like, I mean, it sounds real geeky, and I have got no other model cars, but just because I knew that he'd spent so much time, because once I walked past one of these model shops, and I saw a couple of the other colours, and I went, oh wow, if they've got one that's mine, I'll just get it. It's kind of cool. And I'm building a new house, and I thought that'd be nice in the man cave.
Well, he would have spent so much time on that.
Yeah,
it's
a lot of time.
Research.
Yeah, a lot of time.
Yeah,
and you almost have to beg for these things because they hand make them. And anyway, so it was cool.
Speaking of family, you've spoken in the past about cooking with your grandparents in the kitchen when you were, I think. You said in an interview, it might have been on news.com.au, about how you were 13, your mum would leave like a list of things for you to do, whether it's peeling potatoes or whatever it may be. And there was sort of always a prominence of men in the kitchen, particularly your grandpa.
Yeah.
What is your earliest memory of the kitchen?
I don't know if there's a single memory. It's more of an emotion, I think, rather than a memory of a unique time or experience. I remember always being in the kitchen. I remember always the conversations were held in the kitchen. My grandparent, like the kitchen's was always the centre of the house. And I think in any good home, the kitchen's where people congregate.
Yeah.
So I remember with both sets of grandparents, if I go to my grandparents who lived in Preston, you'd meet in the kitchen and you'd sit around that little kitchen table. There was a dining table, then there was like this little kitchen table.
Yeah.
You'd play cards with your grandfather, your grandmother would make you tea, you'd be eating little biscuits that they made and all that kind of stuff. So you're always in there. So it was always that hub of happiness, I suppose. And then when I'd go to my grandparents who lived in Sunshine, which was on the same day, we'd do Sunday, we'd do lunch at one and dinner at the other. And then it would be the kitchen again. It'd be like you'd come in, Nanda would be sitting at the kitchen table, you'd give them a kiss, say hello, my grandmother would be in the kitchen doing her thing, the other uncles and aunties would be around, and you'd fight for a seat to sort of sit next to your grandfather. But you'd steal some nuts, have something to eat, dinner would be served, and it was always just that place of happiness, I think, that drew me to cooking.
Another interesting thing you spoke about is how the cooking is sort of... for you personally, I guess if you see people happy from cooking, that you get a sense of happiness from it, and that must have been instilled at a young age. Like you mentioned before about always wanting to sit next to your grandpa. I had the same exact thing, except for me it was all about the story, because he was always a media guy. He was a printer. He printed the Greek newspaper. And so to be like, it'd feel like you're at a campfire, and you're telling these ancient tales, and it's like, oh. And so through watching that, I'd want to get more and more as a storyteller, better at telling stories at the table. So I'm curious as to you sort of see whether that fed into that, like the desire to want to be liked in that environment.
Yeah, I think so. I think people are drawn. Everybody, like yourself, people are drawn to things that make them happy. And if you can be drawn to that thing that makes you happy and then it becomes your career, well, then life's a blessing. But I think about my Nando Nan, or my dad's dad, he had he had one son and 7 daughters. Yeah. My dad was the eldest. And so we were the only people that held the family name, because all my aunties lost their name when they got married. Yeah. So my brother and my brother and I were the only Delias, and my grandfather held that in high esteem. So he used to make a big deal of it, and it used to piss everybody else off. Like you'd arrive at the house and he'd be like, "Oh, my Delia boy," he said, "You've got 36 other cousins, and they're all looking at you like, you arsehole." But I think
you were the chosen ones.
Well, yeah, and I wasn't the eldest. I mean, I've got one cousin who's older than me, so I can just imagine how it would have felt for him, because it was kind of like that where I was placed as almost like the successor of the family name. And
I can imagine that's an important thing in, I guess you could say, Mediterranean families.
Yeah,
it's very, very important.
Yeah, it was important that there was somebody to carry on the name and carry on the history and the legacy of our family, and it's been really important that those values were instilled from an early age, and that we had a really good connection with our home. Even though I was born here, you can still say home, as in Malta. And now, later on in life, I've established a really good connection with Malta. I do some work with the government in Malta. I sit on a council called the CMLA, which is a council for Maltese living abroad, and we represent the diaspora of Maltese in Australia and globally. We've got councillors from all over the globe. So, if I didn't have that connection with my family, which was all forged in the kitchen, I wouldn't have that opportunity now to work with the government and really sort of understand who we are as a people. But no, it's been an interesting journey.
Well, you mentioned before about Teddy, your dad, came out here on a boat at 17. I wonder if he came out on the Chandris line.
I'm not sure.
Because I think that's where, I'm pretty sure that's the one that my grandfather came out on. There used to be a line that'd go from like Portsmouth or something like that to Gibraltar, Malta, Cyprus, which is where he was from.
Picked everyone up and took
them. Pretty much all the colonies along the way, Sri Lanka and all that, Malaysia, Singapore, and then stop in Australia. If you think of a lesson that you've learnt from your parents, is there something that sticks out in particular?
Tons of lessons. A lesson from my dad, I suppose, is that you don't need everything to be happy. My dad's just happy with what he has, and he's always been very selfless. I don't know anybody as selfless as my dad. He hasn't got a huge network of friends. He's really kept it tight. Worked in a job for 30-something, 6-something years.
What did he do?
He worked at Dunlop.
Okay.
He was working first on the line and production line, and worked his way up to middle management and senior management, and was always the wog. I think he talks about that a bit. How my dad's incredibly intelligent. He's put himself through night school and did some university degrees and all that kind of stuff. Did it himself, but was always looked over. If you think about it, in the 70s and 80s and even into the 90s, like Dad, he's quite dark. My dad's darker than I am, and he's got a Maltese accent, and he always says that he was overlooked for a lot of positions.
Yeah.
And I think that he just found his happiness at home. So taught me that it doesn't matter what's happening outside, if home's good, you can get through. And it doesn't matter how much money or friends or fame or whatever's happening professionally, if the heart's and the core's good, things are good. So I've really tried to focus on that throughout my career, because a lot of shit's happened around the peripheral.
Yeah. You had a zinger quote before we were chatting. I'm just trying to remember what it was.
It was, you can have everything, you just can't have it all at once.
Exactly. I feel like that condenses what you said in such a brilliant way.
Yeah, because Dad was like with very little means, Like I remember I see my friends now buying their kids cars for their birthday on their 18th. My dad bought me a set of rims for my car that I built, and that was like amazing, because I knew that he'd saved it from the allocation that my mum would give him every week. So my dad would bring home the money and give it to my mum, and she'd manage the funds, and my mum would cut out a bit and say to my dad, that's for you to do what you want to do with.
Yeah.
And out of that little pittance, he saved the money and went and bought me this present. So, a lot out of the household funds, out of his slither.
That's a commonality amongst a lot of immigrant families from that era. Like, if you compare, let's say my mum's family on the Australian side, my grandfather had that money, he'd probably just go to the pub.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, my grandfather would always save that money and reinvest it in some way, or do something with it that helped that little community of people that he had close to.
You knew that when Dad bought you something, it was coming from his pocket, which was always something special. Whether it was on the weekend you'd go to the footy and if it was a pie, or if it was something major like that. If it was a family holiday, you knew it was coming from sort of the family savings. But if Dad put his hand in his pocket, you knew that it was, and he didn't get much every week. You know, so.
How did he choose the Bulldogs? Was it just proximity?
Oh yeah, when he came to Australia, he was working at the Dunlop factory across the road from the Western Oval. And like I said, he came very young, and you know his mates that he met at work were his new mates. They were all Bulldog supporters. It was a territorial thing back then. Now you live in Essendon and you can go for Freo. I don't know what the hell that's about. You live in Footscray and you're going for Collingwood. It's ridiculous.
It's fucking weird.
Yeah, but you know,
it's a similar thing to my grandpa. Moved to St Kilda just off Fitzroy Street in '51. St Kilda down the road.
Yeah.
That's your team.
That's your team. Yeah, that's your patch.
And then he moved to Moorabbin, and then they moved to Moorabbin. It's like, well, it's fate.
But that's what makes it. Then you look at, I suppose, football in Europe and everything else. You know, you support your patch, you support your team, your area you live in. If you don't, I mean, it can be bloody life-threatening. But I mean, here I think it represents the Australian culture at the moment.
100%.
Anything goes.
I found it interesting. You believe, or I don't know if you said this or your mum said this, but you had ADD as a kid, and your move into, working as an apprentice. I think you started at Eden on the Park at 16, sort of eased that agitation.
No, I still have ADD. I don't think you don't grow out of ADD. I didn't get diagnosed until I was later in my schooling. I mean, there was no diagnosis. You know, I'm not sound like an old man, but there was no diagnosis back then.
Yeah.
And I was a child who was amongst a test group almost of kids that were being, tested for this new thing, which was ADD. Wow. And I think they tested like a huge sample of children, 1,000, and it went down to 150, and then it whittled down to like 100, and I was in that 100. And then they said, okay, well, because they were testing experimental stuff. It was like, Ritalin, dexamphetamine, and giving amphetamines to kids was, still now it should be done with caution.
Yeah.
But I saw a night and day, reaction from being, because I'm not stupid, and I'm not. I just can't focus.
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't focus. And I was always frustrated, and that frustration led to acting out and led to violent behaviour and led destructive behaviour, and then led to getting in trouble and leaving school and suspended and expelled and all these things, So, and it wasn't out of wanting to be a rebel; it was just out of not being able to be out of frustration.
Yeah.
So it was almost like went through a process, and I felt sorry for my mum, because my mum had to, when your mum always loves you the most. And you go through this whole process of school with teachers just telling you how bad your son is, and she knows that you're not, and she sees you crying and knows that you're wanting to do better, but you're being, bullied at school by teachers and students and everything. So for her, the whole school journey was this saying something's not right with my son. Mm. And then to finally get into an era where she felt like she had some, that she was finally proved that she was right. That there was something, and she was really happy. But then I saw a D to A shift,
Jesus.
D, C, occasional B, and then suddenly A. So it was just amazing, because I'd come home from school and it was like the Rain Man. I'd run to my room and I could just start. I wanted to, because finally I could get this shit done.
Uh-huh.
And I was like knocking it out, put my paper down, just couldn't wait to get it back. It was unbelievable. But it was a weird transition, because during that time, before I'd started receiving treatment, I'd already decided I wanted to be a chef. Mm. And I'd already started that process of working on the weekends, hunting for apprenticeships, working for free. I wrote a handwritten letter to every 5-star hotel in the state, everyone, and got denied by everyone.
Now, what year was this?
This would have been early 90s, so... so I've been 94.
Okay, so...
Maybe.
When did the hatting or hatted system come out?
It was already in play then.
It was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was already in play then, yeah.
Because you worked... I think this is where you met George at Le Restaurant at the Sofitel, but one thing I've noticed amongst a lot of celebrity chefs from that era is how many worked at hotels.
Well, that's where the best restaurants were. Mm. See, hospitality. It's changed fuckload from then to where it was in the late 90s, early thousands. to where it is now is it's polar opposites.
Yeah.
You know, all the best restaurants were in hotels. They had the infrastructure, they had the prestige, they had the structure, the staffing structure, they had the money, they had the clientele.
Yeah.
They had the international clientele as well. That probably are used to that level of dining, and they had the opportunity to get visas and get staff from abroad who had been exposed to that level of cuisine, you know, and service. So it was the who's who of the zoo. And then obviously then that spills out to restaurants, and then some of these hotel chefs leave and try to do it on their own, and then you start seeing the birth of, you know, brilliant chefs around town that did their thing.
Yeah, so you sort of had, it's like that initial boom in like you know, we see this in tech sectors, like there's this flurry or group of people in the space, and then it gets to a point where they need to go do their own thing, and there's not really the opportunity to do it elsewhere, so they go and create their own opportunity.
Yeah, yes, and then there was a shift in hotels as well. Then what we saw in the probably early thousands in the hotel sector, we're seeing now in the restaurant sector in regards to all this pay and fair work stuff.
Right.
So there was a huge review or reform within hotels. I remember at the Sofitel as well, during that sort of 2001, 2002, where there was this huge reconciliation. It's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
Which was, you know, nobody wanted, you know, and it destroyed that hotel sector. Where suddenly, if we're going, okay, well, if we have to pay this and do this, these restaurants have to close.
Yeah.
And they
or
close.
this is the price.
Not even this is the price. It's not even this is the price.
Yeah, it's just fundamentally you couldn't operate.
Yeah, so it just closed. And you look at them all. Radii closed, the restaurant closed, the one at the Hyatt, which I always forget what it was called, closed. They all closed.
There's not many that have survived.
Yeah, they all closed. They all closed. And if they stay open, now they're just hotel restaurants that service their customers and do some breakfast. There's no premium hotel restaurants in Victoria. I can't think of any, unless you talk about boutique hotels like at the Lake House.
Yeah.
But that's a different business. I'm talking about multinationals.
Yeah.
You know, Hyatts, Hiltons,
The
Sofitels.
only one that I can really think of is the Sofitels restaurant, but I can't even think of what the name is.
Now in there, yeah, it's Cafe La, but it's not. No one's going there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like it's you're not going there if you're just a punter in Melbourne. You're going there if you're staying in the hotel.
But maybe that's the evolution back as well. Maybe maybe hotels realise that with the changes that are happening in restaurants now, all of a sudden they have the capital available to make these pitches or these deals that could bring celebrity chefs or chefs back into the fold in hotels. Who knows?
I mean, I had some of the best times of my life working at the Sofitel and hotels in general. I worked in hotels from day one till I opened Maha. My whole career was hotels.
That's right.
I loved it. It was an unbelievable environment, great learnings, lots of stuff we probably can't talk about.
Lots of fun.
Lots of fun.
Let's put it that way.
Lots of fun.
I know from there you moved to Eleanor's at Chateau Yering. I think because from a very young age you were winning a lot of awards. Maybe just going back to that, now that you've fixed your ADD in a way, you've got this mentality where you're just smashing things and you're constantly focused on improvement, because that's something that you've spoken about in prior interviews. But in 2003 you were promoted to exec chef, which made you the youngest chef at the time, and I know from prior interviews you said that you were way over your head in that role.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you think you landed that role? What do you think they saw in you to give it to you?
I'm not going to blow wind up my butt. I mean, there was a few things. I mean, the necessity. They saw that I had potential. They knew that they could get me for a better price. I mean, I'm not stupid. I mean, I run businesses as well. I mean, the ADD thing that you mentioned, I never fully resolved that, and it came back and bit me in the butt later in my career as well, where I had to, because when I finished school, high school, when I left high school and I went to start working, because it was still so structured, and they had such enforcement around how they could deal you this amphetamine. As soon as I left school, I was no longer eligible to get it. So I went from great to then in an adult environment where I'm working and take my treatment away, and it was really hard. like really hard. And the only thing that kept me back online is the strict, stringent hierarchy of the kitchen, which had really firm walls, you know, like, which doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So, you know, I knew that I couldn't move left or right because I was going to get my legs chopped off there and my head chopped off there, you know, or the chef was on you. So, you know, that saved me through the sort of my whole training period. You know, people talk about how hard it was and you can't treat people like that. I don't care. I mean, that saved me. And it saved a lot of people, I think. I mean, I speak to a lot of these chefs now who are performing really well and are captains of industry. They've been through that fire, you know, and they've that's why they are where they are. They've invested in themselves. They've put in extra hours. They haven't been paid for it, but look what that investment's paid off now. You know, they've invested in themselves. They've spent the time. They've sacrificed, and now that's why they can have it all. They just couldn't have it then.
Yeah,
can have it later. But at Restaurateur, I left. It was like 2002 or 3, I think, there at Restaurateur. I left Sofitel because it all started to fall down. They were going to close the restaurant and all that kind of stuff. And I went over with the head chef of the restaurant at the time then to the Siebel to work a little bit there. And I worked there for 12 months. And that was, I thought I'd worked hard before. That was the hardest 12 months of my entire life.
Jesus.
You know, we would get to work at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and we would leave at like 1 in the morning. And I mean, you'd be at breaking point. And you'd do like 6 days, you'd go home, you'd have a shower, the water would hurt you. Like, it would feel like needles were coming out of it. It would just, your body was so, you'd get up in the morning, your shoes were still warm from the night before. Like, it was just like, you know, like you'd park, you know, we used to park then at Spencer Street. There was no, all that development wasn't there. And you'd walk up Flinders, I walk up Queen Burke Street, and there was a chemist that was a 24-hour chemist. And we used to take it in turns who was going to go buy the codrils with the pseudoephedrine to push us through the day. So it was a really bad, and you were being constantly, you know, hassled by a chef. So at that time I was broken, and I needed to I don't know, I was in a good space, and this opportunity came out at Inland Park in the Yarra Valley, and I thought, this is a beautiful place. It's got a lot of prestige, and it could be the change of pace that I need just to sort of get my head back together. And my mate was running it at the time, and he kind of said, I really need a great chef de cuisine to help me. Can you come in as my second? And I said, yeah, fuck it, let's just do it. And I resigned and went there. And then after a while, you know, he was the top and I was underneath him, and he went through some personal issues. And, you know, I've probably never said sorry to him because I'm a lion. You know, you put something in front of me, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
And I saw there was an opportunity to go, and I went, and he ended up leaving. I took that spot, you know, and I just gave it everything I had.
Yeah, but that is the industry as well.
Yeah,
it's quite cutthroat.
Well, it's any industry. You can be a sheep.
Yeah,
or you can be a lion. I mean, I'm not going to be the sheep.
You met Maha who's your wife, through your sister. Around this time, I think you've mentioned in prior interviews about how this sort of shifted your focus in life. I know that her name is plastered everywhere across all your brands. What has she taught you about life?
Maha's great because, I mean, we came from very similar backgrounds. I mean, even our ethnicity. I mean, I'm Maltese. Both my parents are Maltese. Her family are Lebanese. If you know anything about Maltese history, we descended from the Phoenicians, who were the original Lebanese. There's a lot of similarities in our language. She's Maronite Catholic, which, you know, there's a lot of similarities between her upbringing and cultural upbringing and mine, and our families have the same sort of outlook, you know. And she keeps me really grounded, you know, very supportive. She's not one of these wives who needs all the best of everything, and, you know, don't get me wrong, she likes good stuff too, and when we get a chance to you know, spoil ourselves, we do. But it's not a pressure. I don't have to worry that my wife's going and spending tens of thousands of dollars on things she can't afford. But she keeps me really grounded, and when things are turning to shit, like they do often, she's always that person to just be, we can go back to how we lived. We lived like that. We can do that again.
What do you think she does well that you don't do well? Like, as an example, I'm quite disagreeable, whereas Lauren is very agreeable. So if I'm sending an email, as an example, sometimes I can come across as a bit of a dick, and I'll get Lauren to check it.
Yeah.
Is there something like that you guys have?
I genuinely think I do everything better than Maha. She does a lot of things better than me. Cooking's not one of them, but I think that Maha's what she does better than me. She adds some calm. She'll really, no. Probably the opposite. I'm a bit of a pussy sometimes.
Right.
If someone's done something wrong by me, I can be really angry about it. But then I'll reflect on it and I'll think about, okay, well, maybe I should just give them another chance, or maybe I should. And she'll be like, no. She's like the fucking rock. She's like, no chance. There's no chance. I'm like, what do you mean? Recently, I've found out that there's a staff member in our team who's been doing the wrong thing by us. And on a small level, but still been doing the wrong thing by us. And it's one of our pillars. We've got trust, respect, and honesty. And this probably breaks down all those pillars. And I've thought, okay, well, maybe we can just work through this. She's a crucial staff member, And Maha's like, you fooling yourself, She's telling me what I already know and probably what I believe in, but she just reaffirms that. Yeah,
Lauren does this really well as well. I think it's his judgment of character. She's a very good judge of character. I don't know what it is. I feel like women are better than guys at this for sure. Like I've had mates or people that I liked or whatever, and she's like, I'm not sure about this person, and it was like I didn't work it out for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years sometimes, and she's like, I fucking told you. Yeah. No, she can do that. She's very good at that. And we've been with a lot of my friends. She'll be like, yeah, no, I don't like that person. Yeah, that is a thing that women are far better at. Judgments of character. That's an interesting one. I want to jump to the beginnings of the restaurant, which is Maha, 2005. 2008. I think. Well, 2005 you made your first appearance on Ready Steady Cook, so I see this as like. Did I? No. Yeah, on IMDb it's got you 2005. No, that's wrong. Really? We didn't open the restaurant till 2008. When was your first appearance on Ready Steady Cook? It would have been 2009. Really? Yeah. So it wasn't until you actually had the restaurant? Yeah. That's fucking weird. I wonder who fills that out on IMDb. I would have made my first television appearance on the Food Lovers Guide with Mavo Mara on like 2005 or 2006. So I shouldn't be trusting IMDb because it's got here 9 a.m. with David and Kim. Yeah, that would have been around 2008. Okay, so it's got nothing pre that. So Ready Steady Cook, I wonder how that works. They must like have someone that puts in the credits. They must have fucked that up. Yeah, I don't know. I've never Googled myself or IMDb'd myself before to see what I've done. But what I find interesting is you'd already had this idea, and funnily enough, George had a similar idea. Yeah. I guess I was curious, how long had you decided, or how long ago had you decided that the executive chef game was great and it was good to run a kitchen, but the way forward was to actually own your own brand? It wasn't something from the beginning. Maha and I met. I was still at Shadow Earring. I was coming to the end of my time there. I was getting bored. Yeah. Really bored. I was only 27. Wow. And we were just about to get married, and I thought to myself, I don't know if I want this life anymore. I'm 27, I'd been doing it for 11 years. I thought, I don't know if I want this anymore. It pays me fuck all. Back then, I thought I'd achieved everything I set out to achieve. The pinnacle, yeah. You know, about to get married, I was excited, new life. Don't know if I want this for my wife, you know, my kids moving forward, me not being home and all this kind of stuff. And thought I was still young enough to start something new. And I thought, I might start a new trade. I might, you know, I've always thought I'd be in a trade.
especially then. I thought now I wouldn't. Now I could do something else. But then I thought I just, maybe I could do some. I was always interested in carpentry. I thought I could be a police officer. My grandfather was a sergeant of the police force back home. And Maha and I discussed it. We talked about it. I was offered a couple of jobs overseas, as in Singapore and Vietnam as exec chefs and of hotels, and which I was considering. And I was like, Maha was real willing to follow it, but even though she didn't really want to do it. And then, I was sort of just, George and I were mates, and we did our apprenticeship together and all that. And he just opened the press club, I think 2007 or 7, maybe 6. That would have been 7. And it was flying, and he was, king of the world. And I came down to Melbourne and I was talking to him about it, and, he was invited to the wedding and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, mate, I don't know what I'm going to do. I said, I'm over this kind of stuff. And he was like, come on, man, we've been through the fire together, he goes, you're going to leave. I said, I don't know, man, I just feel fucking over this, I'm disheartened and haven't got any. And he's like, yeah, you ever thought about doing something on your own? I'm like, yeah. I said, Maha and I have kind of talked about it, if we did do something, that maybe we open just a little restaurant. And by then I wasn't cooking Middle Eastern food, I was cooking French food. I had my whole career. And I said, maybe just a little restaurant and this and that. And anyway, long story short, we kind of had this idea. They wanted to expand. George came to my wedding, and we had a big wog wedding, and there was Lebo drums and people going crazy. And then Maha and I went on our honeymoon, which was actually, I did the full wog thing, and been asked to be a guest chef on an ocean liner, which went through Abu Dhabi or Dubai and all that kind of stuff. And I used that as my honeymoon. So they flew us into Dubai, business class. We were 27 years old. We were kids. We flew us in. We were rock stars. We jumped on this ocean liner. It took us all the way around the Dead Sea and up to Morocco. So that was our honeymoon. And I just connected to the Middle East with Maha. I hadn't travelled through there before. And I just fell in love with it. It felt like home to me. Like when I get off the plane and I set foot in Malta, even though I'm born here and I'm Australian, I get off the plane there and I'm overcome with this sense of home. And I've been fortunate enough throughout my career to travel a lot with Spice Journey, and I feel that every time I come into a city that has Moorish or Middle Eastern roots, and I don't know why. I mean, you can't fake that. And I just felt that here, and I loved it, and the food was brilliant. And by the time we came back, George and I met again, and he'd just been through this whole experience of this big Lebo Maltese wedding. And we sat down, and he goes, what do you think you're going to do? I said, I think I might open a little meze bar. And he was like, I was going to tell you should do it, open a Middle Eastern restaurant after that wedding. And then he goes, look, why don't we do it together? I'm like, he goes, I've got these partners. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know your partners, man. You know what I mean? Like, I know you, I don't know them. He said, no, they're great. And we basically met and had a lunch at the press club, and we left there with a deal that we were going to open a restaurant. So that's how the first restaurant started.
Yeah. And then there was St. Cat's. I remember the launch of that. I remember doing a few rockstar shifts there. Yeah. I love that place.
Yeah, so did I.
That place was fucking you guys, what did you create? You created the oven.
Oh, the pizza oven, that big wood oven?
Oh, man.
Or the grill, they're all in the back, that big wood fire grill.
I've never, to this day, this has constantly disappointed me, never had like proper pide like that.
It was nice out of there.
It was so good.
I really liked I look back at that moment and Shadow Earring time. I wish I could do that again now.
Yeah.
Because I know so much more now, and I'm such a better cook now than I was then, and I've got better people and all that. We could do that now and make that pide experience that you've had so much better. Yeah. So much better. And I look back at Shadow Earring and think, fuck, I had all these resources there that I didn't even know existed. Yeah. You've got acreage, and you've got a farmer, and you've got all this produce, and you could have really done some brilliant stuff. But I was a kid, mate. I was like 22. I stayed there from when I was 22 or 23 to 26 or 7. It was a great learning experience for me. I learned a lot about brand and business and budget and people, but I didn't really learn much about cooking. Yeah. So I probably, where most of my other friends that I did my cooking with pissed off overseas and learned bucket loads of cooking, but didn't invest any time in that crucial part about network. You know, network's the most important thing. I built a network in that time, which then has pushed me to where I am now. Whereas they learnt amazingly how to cook. So all I do now is I just employ better fucking cooks than me. Because there are better cooks than me, and I've got better cooks than me in my own team.
Yeah.
But what I can bring, they can't get anymore.
Well, this is what I was wondering. Like, you know, you spoke about in an interview that the thing that you learnt from George was not around creative and cooking, but it was about being a restaurateur.
Yeah.
And I guess, do you feel like that was one of the things you really learned? Is it's finding the right people and putting them in the right places? Is that what changed for you?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I know that George is getting a lot of backlash at the moment, and his world's turning to shit, and I feel really bad for him, you know, because he doesn't deserve it.
No. A lot of former staff feel that way too.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But he was always very good at. He was good with people and identifying who's great in what role and really empowering them to do what they had to do. I haven't always been so great at that. I think it comes with maturity as well. And it comes with self-esteem. You know, I think when your self-esteem is good and you're happy within yourself, you don't feel like you have to, well, I'm talking for myself, you don't have to control everything. Like when my self-esteem's not great and I'm not so happy, I'm very reluctant to let other people help me because I feel like, oh, I have to do this. I have to make myself better. I have to fix this kind of thing. When you feel good about yourself and things are great and you're relaxed and you've got good people around you, you're kind of happy to push things back and just kind of let things happen, I think.
Yeah, you become more of a maestro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think George was always kind of good at that in those early years.
Yeah.
And he was good at that even before then. I think even we were at the same year level as apprentices. And even at that level, he was very good at asserting himself.
Uh-huh.
So,
what do you wish you could tell him today?
I mean, we didn't speak for a few years. You know, people get in each other's ears, you know, and I think you always have to go back to what you had in the core. And in the core, we were really good friends. You know, we're still friends now. We don't speak as often as we could. And I just think that I just wish, and I think I don't know, I haven't spoke to him. I just hope that in his next, when he rises again, and he will rise again, that he has better people around him. You know, that he has people around him that actually are willing to invest what he's invested, and I don't just mean about money, and that are in it for the right reasons.
Effort.
Yeah, effort, love, determination, willing to sacrifice, and you know, he's always had a goal of just being a great cook and creating great experiences. I think somewhere along that line, and I've been guilty of it too, we start to fall victim to the 7 deadly sins, you know, and then they start to just it starts to blur the lines. And you start to lose focus on what you actually makes you happy.
Yeah.
And it's not the money, and it's not the endorsements, and it's not the popularity and all the other shit. That's all great. But that's when Maha keeps me good. Because we get, like, all that stuff, sometimes it's just you're drawn to the light. And, but she's kind of pulls you back and go, yeah, okay, we can, that's nice and we can have that, but fucking sit down.
But you know? This goes back to what you mentioned before about that staff member and how important it is to have the right people. You know, being an executive in or a restaurateur is probably one of the hardest executive positions in the business world, I think. The highest pressure position, because, you know, let's just look at Australia. All the costs across the board have gone up far more than most other industries.
Yeah.
It's quite, when people actually look at the hospitality industry, it's incredibly hard these days.
Especially when you consider that most of the people in, like myself and George, we're cooks, you know, like we're chefs.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we haven't been through, done a Harvard business degree.
You've not done MBAs
you know,
and all that.
We're cooks.
Yeah.
And that's not like we should be saying, you know, poor me and cut us some slack. But we evolve into these roles, and some of us are more naturally, I suppose, gifted or have these strengths where they can move into management and understand business, and some don't, and they just are always that chef that's out of his depth. I feel that I've always been a better businessman than a chef. And what's made me a better businessman is admitting that I'm not a great businessman.
Yeah.
And
admitting that you know nothing is one of the best traits to have.
Yeah, but then also being fortunate enough to have some amazing friends. I've got amazing friends, and I don't call them my network. They're my friends, and they really care for me, and they are all what I don't have. They are the educated people. They are the people running multi-billion-dollar funds and international events, and are very well respected and have a lot more life experience than me. And I'm never too shy to ask for help. Even just for a coffee and just to talk to them, I feel like I leave there, not just with a great conversation as a mate, but I feel enriched, like I felt like I've learned something. Whether it's something personal or professional, whatever, brilliant friends. And none of them push me to, grow my ego. I feel like I'm lucky to be around them. It's not the other way around. They're not fueling me. So it's nice.
Your creative process we spoke about before at the beginning, the moleskin. I've read that you're definitely one to buy a shitload of cookbooks and then never read them. Yeah. So I was curious as to what does your creative process look like, and how do you get ahead of having to just keep your finger on the pulse?
Okay, creative process is Wednesday, so it's today. Yep. 4:30. We have a chef's meeting every Wednesday, 4:30.
Okay.
And it's all chefs, so all of our head chefs. Head chef from Maha, head chef from Maha East, Maha Bar, my ops manager, Nick, who you know, is my partner now.
Yeah, love Nick, great guy.
Great guy. I mean, he's all right for an Iranian. But we meet at Maha in the Signet room, in our little private room, and we talk about the menus, purely menus, not anything else. Okay, what's working? These are great dishes. We look at the menu, these are great dishes. What's not working? What don't we like? This dish isn't so great. Okay, what do we need? What do we need to balance out the menu? We probably need like a little light salady dish there. What produce is coming? Because then they come with produce. I always tell them come armed. They come with because they've got the relationships with the growers and the suppliers. Not me anymore.
Yeah.
I used to have that relationship. Now it's their relationship. So they come and they bring this box. They go, we can get these beautiful things. These are around for the next 6 weeks. I can get it. And also think about money too. I can get a great deal on this.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, that's a brilliant product. How can we now spread that across the group to try to make some revenue? Because as you said, cost of goods is going through the roof. So if we can get a deal on something, we really look at that and go, okay, well, our butcher said that if we buy a pallet of this, 1,000 kilos, he'll give it to us at next to nothing. Great. Between the group, we can move that ton. Let's make it happen. And then we start then we go through this whole process. It's really exciting. We go through this whole process about what we want to cook and what's it going to taste like. And I let the guys kind of do it. Yeah. And I just sit there and just jab it every now and then.
So it's like a meeting of the minds.
Right? Yeah, and like they all talk, and I know where to go for strengths and weaknesses. Like I've got all different chefs have got different strengths. Federico's really good with technique, and Simon's really good at that rustic type of flavoursome food, and Dan's really good at sort of bringing it together. And then my role is I'm the editor. My role is to make sure it still has Maha DNA, and that's the hardest thing because they're all got different experiences, and we cook unrestricted Middle Eastern food. I mean, we don't cook fucking classic Middle Eastern food. It's loosely Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
But to weave that Middle Eastern, DNA through it is the bit that I have to do. And it's the last question I asked them. So we come up with this great 3 or 4 dishes. And I'm like, okay, great. That's going to be awesome. We're going to need the right bowl for that one. Yeah, do you understand that? And then I'll say, but I want it really crispy. Do you get it? Yeah, and they're like, yeah, really crispy. So it's not crispy by the time, we talk about the process. By the time you put the sauce on it, it's not going to sit right. So and they go, okay. And then they just write the notes down. And then I'll ask them at the end, I go, so what makes it Middle Eastern? Because these dishes, none of them are Middle Eastern. Okay, so what makes it Middle Eastern? I'll go, the yogurt. I'm like, no, that's fucking bullshit. So what makes it our Middle Eastern?
Yeah.
And then I go, okay, well, no, nothing. Okay, well, we'll have to scrap it. Let's just talk about how we weave that through it. So if you're using this spice instead of that, and, there's this great dish, Middle Eastern dish that's kind of similar to that, maybe if we put a bit more of that in there, we could actually start to draw the heritage, the links. And then we end up with the food. And then, obviously there's heaps of stuff going on. We talk about what are the functions coming up? Do we need a bespoke menu for those?
Yeah, because catering's that was one thing that I feel like you strategically did really well is, I remember when I did a few shifts at Maha, someone spoke about Peter Rowland back then, or your relationship with Peter Rowland. And it's like you learnt so much about the business from that time, and you were able to integrate that into your own business now.
I mean, major events are a big part of our business now.
Yeah.
Major events, corporate events, private events, catering.
That's actually one thing you've done better than most other celebrity chefs, I think. Because
I hate
your
that term,
name...
celebrity chef.
Pardon?
I hate that celebrity chef thing. It's fucking...
Let's call it restaurateurs.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like your name has been synonymous with a few events around the year.
Well, you want to be in the biggest market, all right? So the biggest market's where the most people are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you think about the major events, you can have a little restaurant and do 200 people, or I can go to the Australian Open and do 1.2 million people, you know? So I think my goal with events has always been to touch as many people as we can with a great experience, so the brand grows, and to work closely with the caterers, because the caterers are our best friend.
This is interesting, because last night I was obviously paying attention to what's happened to George, and one of the recommended videos I had was when Jamie Oliver's restaurant group collapsed. And the CEO at the time spoke about how the work that he would do marketing-wise would never actually translate to bums on seats. Whereas something like this actually translates to bums on seats.
100%. And I get there and speak, so when we do, is work with Peter Rowland, and Peter was a great mentor of mine, or is a great mentor of mine. I do every year, I'm blessed to do the committee room for the VRC, okay, for Derby Day. Mandy Elliott's the CEO of the CEO of the VRC, and
big day locally for our international listeners.
yeah, huge day. And the committee room is the room.
Yeah.
You know, it's the room, invite only, tux, tails, top hat, politicians, heads of state. It's the room, invite only, and historically quite white.
French, English food.
Yeah, and even the people in the room. So for a guy of Maltese descent cooking Middle Eastern food to be in the committee room speaking, you know, because I get a chance to speak to the room, is a huge honour, but also it breaks down so many barriers. And Amanda is so lovely how she introduces me, and you know, as a friend of the VRC and as a friend of the committee room. So people automatically have that connection with you. And then I really make a point of going around once the dinner's out and just speaking to tables, because I've built relationships over these. I know one person on every table. You know, hey, how you going? Good to see you. And you talk to them, and they introduce you to the rest of the table. You know, Prince, whatever. I know you're only in town for a little bit, but Shane's restaurant is, you know. And then suddenly you build this, and I leave there with like 100 bookings.
Yeah.
Like I literally do. They'll say, oh, tonight we really haven't got it. No problem, leave it with me. Write down your details, and I'm on to Rebecca, and I bang back, get these bookings in, and like literally leave there with bookings, which is great.
Yeah.
And then I make sure I leave the races and go back to the restaurant, so when they get there, they see me again. You know, and that's where you start to really make that booking a relationship, because then they see you, you're welcome, nice to see you. How'd you get here so quick?
Yeah.
And then you're there for their experience, and then you become their go-to.
This is like how back in 2014 you did this interview and you said that you get randomized numbers.
Yeah.
And you call people.
It's very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very.
I like
then,
that.
Yeah, back then it was very important. It's probably still important now, and I haven't done it for a while because we kind of moved with technology, and then now started sending people an automated email at the end of their booking asking the same type of things that I would ask. And in my mind it was like, okay, now I get to speak to everyone instead of 3 or 4 people. But it's never the same as speaking to someone on the phone. But what we do now is with all that, because you can ask people, you can send them an email and say, tell us what you think. But what do you do with that data? If you're not fucking doing anything with that data, it's just wasting everybody's time.
Yeah.
So we analyse the data. Every week the guys will say to me, positive and negative. And all the positive stuff's great and we don't really reply to it. But the negative stuff, especially if something's real, like some people just like to fucking whinge.
Yeah.
If something's real,
you can tell when something's
yeah, we'll get it. They'll get a letter back from me.
Yeah.
Not an email, a letter back. You know, so we write a lovely letter, maha head, you know, gold leafed, you know, letterhead, you know, from me. I write the letter, sign it. If we need to offer any kind of, you know, compensation, whether it's come back as my guest or whatever it is, we do that. Or if it's just an acknowledgement, it's something. You know, nobody does that. I mean, that's one thing people forget in our industry is that we work in the hospitality industry.
Yeah, service.
The key thing is be hospitable.
Yeah.
That's it. Get that right, everything else is fucking easy. You know, they're not. A lot of restaurateurs and chefs think that we're fucking God's gift to the fucking world. That people should be lucky to get a booking in our restaurant. Fucking fool yourself. That's why all these monkeys are closing. You know, fooling yourself. We're the lucky ones that people want to come and eat with us because there's thousands of restaurants in this town, brilliant restaurants, you know, and they want to come and spend their hard-earned money with us. The least I can do is acknowledge if there was an issue.
Yeah, I've not heard of that in the industry for a while. Like, I know that you got these teams and they'll listen to what people give in terms of feedback, but I've not heard of the owner doing stuff like that.
I think it's really important.
Yeah.
And I've really tried, that's where Maha has, I suppose, been that influence as well. I've always really tried to remain grounded. You know, that I'm not bigger or better or, you know, uncontactable or, you know, I'm here, yeah? I mean, I'm doing this. So.
I know that the industry has changed a lot. You've spoken in the past about all the different mediums. Uber Eats was a big change in the industry. You've got a lot more production kitchens that just service those, or just Uber Eats now, right?
We had.
You had?
Yeah, not anymore.
Not anymore. You've mentioned in the past about how the pinnacle of a restaurateur for you is sort of Nobu in a way, but I know that Petros said that you would never want to sort of fantasize or idolize too much about other people.
No, I don't. You ask me who's who in the zoo and I don't know. You know, I really don't know. I don't know globally. I don't really even know locally. Kind of got my mates. You know, I think locally, you know, a restaurateur that I admire is Andrew McConnell. I think he's humble, brilliant food, he's done great stuff. I like he's got his very, very unique brand, you know, when you're at one of Andrew's venues. But globally, I think, you know, what Nobu's done, you know, he's taken that brand all around the world. Does it fucking knock the socks off people? I don't know. I mean, when I eat there, it's nice. You know, but I go back.
Is that what you want? Is like, what do you daydream about? What do you...
I'd love to take the Maha brand abroad.
Yeah.
I think we offer a very unique, and maybe it's because I'm ignorant. Maybe I don't know what else is out there. But I think what we provide is very unique. I think it's very approachable. I think it'd be very well received globally. I think it'd be very well received in Arabic countries, in the UAE. I think it'd be very well received in London. I think it'd be very well received in the States. So I'd like that opportunity. And I think I'm not going to do that as a standalone owner-operator. I'm not going to do that. You know, I may do it in the States, but I don't know. I want to do it with partners. Yeah. I want to do it as a licensing deal, or as with a restaurant group or a hotel chain, where we start to bring those signature restaurants back in hotels, where you can have, you know, Maha at the Savoy.
Yeah. And,
you know, and it's their restaurant, and we go and train them, and we go, and then I just spend my life like one of these speakers on the speaking circuit, going around from restaurant to restaurant around the globe with my small posse, with my little SAS of chefs, and we go in and retrain the chefs, update the menus, you know, and just do that. I'd be very happy to do that.
How has Nobu done it? Like, think of Ramsay, think of all these big, like Heston, others, like, I can't think of anyone but Nobu who's really succeeded internationally in maintaining that level of success.
I think he's created a great brand in regards to the product, because it's not really Japanese. It's kind of got this Peruvian little layer over it, but it's bloody tasty. And he was a pioneer too. He was one of the earliest ones doing that kind of stuff, and it's pretty consistent.
But does he license those, or does he own them all, or what's the deal?
Taking a stab, I don't think he owns many of them. I think that he'd be licensing.
Yeah, because there's so many.
Well,
right?
the Crown one is. He wouldn't be owning them in like I went to the one in Vegas. There's no way he owns that. It's a licensing deal. You know, the one at Crown owns. You know, the one in Malibu that I went to, I don't know, because it's a standalone. Most of the ones I've been to have been in complexes.
Okay. So if they're in a complex, it's probably.
I'd assume it's a licensing or a JV, but no, I do admire what he's done. I think it's great, and it creates this. You've got security in that brand. You know when you go to a Nobu what to expect, and that's why we've used Maha as the parent brand, and then taking derivatives off that to do Maha Bar, Maha East, because establishing a new brand's hard work.
Yeah, I think that's a smart move. Keeping the same brand name.
Well, because people, they know it. Like already we've already got bookings for the bar. We don't even open for another couple of weeks. People don't have to worry. They know what the DNA is. It's when you buy a Mercedes, you know you're buying a Mercedes. You don't have to worry. If it's a Mercedes A-Class, B, C, AMG, whatever the hell it is, you're buying a Mercedes. So you've got that level of security that you know what you're getting. So why would I go and start a Toyota brand when I've already got a Mercedes? you know?
That is an interesting point. I feel like that was one of the things at the press club when I was there that it missed. There was in some venues it felt a bit disjointed to what the press club was.
Yeah, and I mean that's where my equity is. You know, the equity's in Maha.
Yeah.
The experience of doing Biggie Smalls really sort of showed me that, you know, about what brand equity means and how hard we had to work to get that brand out there, and it still didn't work. So,
if you had renamed it, what would it have been? Maha Kebabs?
No, I wouldn't have done it. That's rats and mice.
Yeah.
That industry.
It's too hard.
No, it would have. It was okay before the
Before Uber Eats.
Well, yeah, before Uber Eats came in and just changed the game. Totally changed the game. They changed the market. You know, so, and I'm not hating on Uber Eats. I mean, I think it's a necessary evil. You know, people need it, they want it, the consumers, it's not going anywhere. But it has disrupted an industry, which is what it was set out to do. But there's no resolution. Like at the moment, it's disrupted and there's no fix. Nobody's winning. From what they tell me, they're not making any money, which I don't know. But the restaurants definitely aren't making money. The consumer is getting a subpar product, but they're getting it anyway. And all they're getting is burgers and fucking noodles anyway.
Yeah. So
they're not getting any restaurant food, which was what Uber was their mandate, to set out and bring restaurant quality food to home.
Yeah.
That failed on its ass pretty quick.
It is weird, isn't it? Like I remember when we had these, there was like some other online, was it Order Now? No.
Yeah, I know. There's been Deliveroo, there's Automate or something.
Before that, and you used to be able to get, like we ordered something the other night from our favourite Thai place, and I was like, I'd already picked out the prawns because I know how many prawns comes in this pad Thai, and I'm eating my prawns, and Lauren's like, "Where's the prawns?" I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, there's 6 in total for this dish, 3 each." And she's like, "No, I think that's it."
Oh wow!
I'd already taken 3 and I'd already eaten them, and she was fucking so pissed.
Yeah.
But that's when you talk about the subpar product. That's what has to happen because of those commissions that they take.
Well, you know the problem is, I think that so we established Biggie Smalls on a conventional, traditional business model. Main street, rent, cost of goods, 100% of the sale, and we did our business plan on that. And it was a profitable business model in the first few months. But then Uber Eats come on about 4 or 5 months after we opened, and it was great because suddenly we had, say it's 30 grand a week in store that we were doing, and we were doing well, and the business is pumping, and everything's great. And then suddenly Uber comes on, and they plug in, and they punch the PR and marketing, and you're doing 30 in store plus another 10 or 12 on Uber. And the commissions were a lot lower in the beginning if you came on early.
Yeah.
So you're going, wow, this is amazing. I'm making my budgeted amount in store, plus I'm making 10 or 12. Yeah, I'm losing a slither, but it's all cream.
Yeah.
It's fucking amazing. And then what happens is the market shifts. So the consumer changes. So the consumer now starts to get used to this new market where they can jump on an app and not just have to walk down a main street and maybe have 5 or 6 choices. They can now go on an app and have hundreds of choices.
But it makes them lazy as well. They're not coming down to the store.
Well, yeah, so they suddenly don't come to the store anymore. So they can just sit it on the home. They've got the brand loyalty isn't really there anymore. They're enticed by all these other things. And also the Uber algorithm starts to push other businesses. So suddenly it's in front of them. They don't have to look for they have to actually look for your brand. That's not suddenly I'm going to Biggie Smalls. They can, and then maybe there's 2 or 3 other shops and they don't even look at them. Now they go on this app and it's just like, whoa. So then your patronage in the store shrinks. It's no longer 30 grand. Now it's maybe 20 grand. And maybe
you still got the overhead.
You still got the overhead, but now maybe instead of getting 10 or 12 on Uber, you're getting 8. And then suddenly the 20 goes to 15 and this 8 turns to 6. Then you're fucked.
Yeah.
So, and that's where we were starting to get. And we went, okay, Biggie Smalls isn't a dead brand. It's got such great brand equity because we put so much effort into it and everybody knows it. Where does it win? It wins on the truck. We've got a food truck. It wins on major events. You put that brand amongst other brands, dominates. So you've created that high street again.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now you've got a dominant brand amongst other brands, and it chews it up. You know, so you're not worrying about this new marketplace. You've gone back to a traditional marketplace, and we're back to business.
You're not so much a restaurateur, but you're a brand guy.
Nah.
I know. You get it. You seem to get, like, coming from Adland, you get the value and the margin that comes from developing a brand. That's why you love Mercedes.
I love all the brands we work with, but I've got a rule with brands that I stand by. I have to be a consumer or a fan first. If I'm not signing. 100%. Like if I'm not a consumer or a fan or I'm not going near it because I felt if it was something I wanted, I'd already be getting it. I'd already be buying it, or I dreamed of getting it. I became a Mercedes friend of the brand through an acquisition of a Mercedes. So I bought one for my wife here at Melbourne. Mercedes Melbourne, and then I slowly, I just started doing some TV, and one of the brand guys there recognised me, doing the marketing guy, said, "Oh, great, what have you bought?" And I told him, and then I saw, as I've always said, just open the door. Don't have to open it fully, just crack it, and I'll kick that fucker open and I'll run in and get it. So I saw that as an opening.
Yeah.
And he knows who I am. Great, there's an interest. Fuck, this is Mercedes. I love Mercedes. And I said, well, why don't we start doing some work together? I'm just across the road. Do you do any catering? They're like, yeah, we host these events. Great. So I started doing maha little menus in their showroom and all this stuff. Then I said to the guys, hey, because that was the first new car, well, the only new car I ever bought. It was for my wife. And I said, I was driving an old piece of shit Ford Festiva with a blue door, and I used to have to push the window up. And I said, I've saved a bit of money. I want to buy a car for me. And they suggested, well, how instead of buying it, maybe we can do like a ambassador role. Wow. We'll give you a car to drive, and you can do more of these things for us. And I went, oh, fuck, amazing. So I did that, and then I was with a friend of the brand locally for like 4 years, three years. And then I had an opportunity to move into a friend of the brand nationally at an AMG level. And now I've got a relationship with the brand, like a proper relationship with the brand.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's a great partnership.
I feel like if I ever came home one day with something like that and told my dad, like, he'd cry with happiness, because he's a massive Mercedes. Well, actually, he's moved away to Audi at the moment because he was disappointed with their. He had a C43, 2003 or 4 model for years, and he got very disappointed with what they were doing with the mechanics of the car or something. Like, he's traditional, you know. In what he likes to see in the motor, but now he's really eyeing off. He's really eyeing off. A former guest of ours, Jerry Sackis, has bought a CL63 or C63, the AMG.
A C63,
yeah.
Great car.
Fucking amazing car.
Yeah, brilliant car. Tell him I know someone. I can introduce him to someone there. We can
you
get
know
him
a guy who knows a guy.
We'll make sure he gets to ride the car.
All right, I got to jump into rapid fire questions, but before we do that. The one thing I want to ask you about TV, because I feel like this is, you spoke before about the opportunity it gave you with the car. You've done a lot of TV, whether it's Spice Journey for 3 seasons, stints on MasterChef, Shane Delia's Recipe for Life. Yeah, quite liked looking back on YouTube, but now, of course, Postcards is the mainstay. Mm-hmm. What are the highs and lows of TV, and what do you hate people asking you about TV?
Oh, okay. The highs of TV, for me personally, I learned how to be a chef from Spice Journey. Like I was good cook and everything before, but after coming back from Spice Journey, I really started to learn what food really means to people. I went to go into villages and speak to people, and none of them are foodies. That's a first world thing. These are just people who eat and love food, and I really started to understand, wow, this is actually bigger than me and the stuff I'm doing, and I started to cook a lot better. The positives, it's given my children an unbelievable opportunities that were far beyond anything I could dream of. Both academically, with opening of doors, experientially, they get to see things and do things that, you know, I wrapped to do, you know. The negatives are, if you're weak, and we're all weak, depends on the level of, if you're weak like me, which, you know, I can be very weak at times, all the bullshit around having a public profile can start to fade the lines between real and not real. And that's where you need your people. And that's where my friends and my wife and everyone start to keep me in check and start to, you know, just really say, that's not real. This is real.
That's interesting.
Because you start to get hungry for the things that are fueling your ego as opposed to the things that fuel your heart. So that's a negative. I mean, the other stuff I'm not a wanker. People come up and say g'day. I'm happy to say g'day. Sometimes, even my heart says to me, don't be so fucking rude. Sometimes if I'm eating a fucking bowl of noodle soup and I've got shit all over my face, I want to have a chat. You know, like, I don't want to talk to my friend, let alone someone that... Because, I mean, the person that comes up is genuinely... I never get haters. Like, I don't get people coming up and giving me a hard time. It's always people that are really happy. And I want to be happy. Like, I want to say, hey, yeah, nice to meet you. It's flattering. No one ever used to want to say hello to me. I was that fat wog from St Albans. I mean, so it's nice when people want to come and say hello now. So, I mean, it is nice. And I suppose the best thing for me, it's given me opportunities to do things that I'm passionate about with brands and people that I love, because I would have never had any of these opportunities. And I know it. I fool myself. I'd never be a Mercedes friend of the brand. I'd never be a Bulldogs ambassador, a Melbourne City ambassador, a Melbourne Storm ambassador, you know, an ambassador of Host Plus. No way. If I was just a chef, no way. I'm not that good of a chef.
Yeah.
So I'm 100%, you know, comfortable with saying it's been because I've had opportunities on TV.
All right, we're going to get into our rapid fire questions.
Shoot.
What does your morning routine look like?
It's gym, then it's food, then it's work.
How's the meal prepping? One of our guests wanted to know how your meal prepping is going. I saw your Tupperware containers on Monday.
Yeah, real good, really good. It's a challenge, but I'm enjoying it, and I'm actually enjoying seeing physical and changes within my body. So
nice.
Yeah, it's fun.
Evening routine, what does that look like?
Depends on the day. Every day, every one of my days is different. There is never a day that's the same. Today, I think my evening will be, I'll get home about 10. Mm-hmm. I'll sit on the couch for a bit and unwind, and then I'll be out cold. So that'll be it.
What are you watching typically when you're on the couch?
I just finished watching that Don't Fuck With Cats thing.
Oh, dude. How fucked is that?
Jesus Christ.
You need to watch something a bit more lighthearted now.
I like watching the Hip Hop Evolution on Netflix. That's great. I'm a big hip hop fan.
Yeah.
So for me, that's right up my alley. It talks about the history and the people and all the little nuances, which has been really cool. And I'm just hanging out for the footy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just hanging out for the footy now.
Yeah.
Like, bring it on.
I got to say, because I listened to Two Guys, One Cup. Well, actually, I think they renamed it to Two Guys, Two Cups. Yeah. Will's actually coming in next Friday, so I can have a good chat about this. But as a St Kilda supporter, I actually was at the point of tears when the Bulldogs won. Yeah. In 2017, wasn't
16.
it? 16.
Hey,
I always get mixed up with the
16.
Because it made me believe that we could do it.
Yeah, you can. Won't be the next few years. The Bulldogs are going to do pretty well. But, no, you can. They've got a good coach and the group's good. We pinched the cup. We pinched Bruce.
You pinched Brucey. I was very sad about that.
He's a good boy, but it was an emotional time for everyone. A very significant time in my life.
All right, the fridge. What's in the fridge at home? At
the moment, it's full of meal prep.
Okay.
Full of meal prep and some stuff for the kids and bucket load of water.
The kids mainly eat what you guys eat, or is there variation there?
No, they're not eating the meal prep stuff. Yeah. Although they probably could, some of them. But no, Maha cooks for the kids.
Okay. Yeah. Best purchase under $200?
Ooh. Best purchase under $200. Jeez. Would have been recently. I was lucky enough I bought a pair of MX 90s. They were like $160. They were great. Yeah.
Where did you get that?
You
can't say.
I bought them from a friend.
Oh shit! All right, last question for you. If you could have a billboard anywhere in Melbourne, where would it be and what would it say?
Oh wow! Well, the best billboard spot in Melbourne's on top of the Young and Jacksons.
Yeah.
You know, that's the spot.
that people go with that, Punt Road under the bridge, or Melbourne Airport.
Yeah, Melbourne Airport's a good one.
Yeah.
Melbourne Airport could be a good one. You could have some fun with it.
Yeah.
You know? What would it say?
There's been some pretty risky ads on that one recently.
Which one's that, the Melbourne Airport one?
Melbourne Airport one, yeah.
You
It was
know,
a Bonds ad where it was just like underwear that just said boobs, and people got very upset about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fucking hard enough. Well, you know, I mean, what would it say? I mean, I don't know. There's a million things I could put on there. What would it say? Oh, fuck. I get myself in trouble. I can get myself in trouble because I'm not the most politically correct person. And my personal views, I know, would be at my business detriment.
Yeah.
So I'm always very reluctant to share them. But what would it say oh fuck, you'd want to advertise the brands, wouldn't you? You'd want to start getting some money back in the brands.
A lot of people go with brand related stuff.
Yeah, I mean brand related stuff because
Have you ever thought about what a Maha billboard would look like?
you know we did this we've got this slogan that we use for our events, and it says imagined by you, managed by us. Which is probably a slogan more for a catering company or an airline, or I don't know what. But I mean, we use it for our events. It's, you know, and it's really like, I mean, it's black and gold and sort of metallic colours and looks really lovely. And it just says, you know, Maha events, imagined by you, managed by us, which I always thought was really nice.
That's a good one. You could almost build like a mirage
Yeah,
element into the creative.
but I'm not a marketer. I mean, I like it, but I'm not I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe it says, Judgment Day's coming, be scared. You know, because I grew up in a Catholic environment, a Catholic home. You know, we went to church every week, and my kids go to Catholic school. And, you know, whether I believe everything in the Bible, I mean, I don't. I believe the stories and the learnings and the teachings. I understand why those stories are there, and I understand why that they were needed to keep society from hemorrhaging. And I look at us now, and we're hemorrhaging everywhere. The world's turning to shit. And I think
coronavirus is here?
Nah, but not even the virus. I mean, everything. Everything's turning to absolute shit, and we're just happy to accept. It's not normality. It's almost mediocrity. And I look at the importance of what those learnings were for me as a kid, not so much even as a Catholic, but just me as a kid. They meant a lot because they kept me on the straight and narrow, and society moved on and things. I think that we need boundaries in life. And at the moment, the boundaries are so wide. It's just, I'm not nervous for the world my children are going to grow up in.
I don't think social media helps with it at all.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, and every time I see myself at home and I finish a day at work and I sit on the couch and the screen's on and I pick up my phone and start looking at it, I hate myself.
Yeah.
Like, I fucking hate myself because I'm like, what am I doing? Like, my wife's sitting right near me. The kids are in bed. She's doing the same thing. And I'm like, this is fucked.
It's a terrible.
This is terrible.
Yeah.
We're not even talking. We're not even watching the TV together and talking about what we're watching. We've got one screen on there, one screen on there, one screen on there, and there's no communication apart with people that we don't even fucking know.
You're just like this.
Yeah, it's shit else. I hate it.
We've started banning phone use in certain situations.
Yeah, I've actually asked Maha too, well, I don't know if she's doing it, is that until the kids go to bed, stay off your phone. Because the kids are only home for a few hours after work, you know, after school. They come home from school, they're either straight into a sport or whatever, and really, they're in bed by 7:30, our kids. They're in bed early. So it's not a big sacrifice. You know, feed them, spend some time, talk to them, educate them, help them do their homework, get off the phone. I don't know if she's doing it because Jada, or my daughter, always tells me that mum's always on the phone, but get off the phone.
He's watching.
Get off the phone.
Shane, thanks for coming in. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
I'm active on Instagram. It's at Shane Delia.
Just not after 7:30. Well,
try not to, but I'm addicted like everybody. And just jump on our website, deliagroup.com.au.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for watching Uncommon and this week's episode. If you like it, smash that like button. If you want to keep up to date with what we're doing, please do subscribe. We would love that. We'd love to build this audience that we're growing here of Uncommoners. If you want to keep up to date with audio, you can search for us on all of your good podcast apps. It's Uncommon or Uncommon Show. We'll typically find us. For social, you want to see behind the scenes, this amazing studio that I'm sitting in, just search at Uncommon_show. And everything will be there, including our weekly promos. But look, thanks so much for stopping by. Until next time, thanks for watching.